Hello, everyone. I'm Bernadette Leal with Sembradores de Luz, and we are so happy to be here with you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Feel loved right now. A big hug. And are you ready? Are you ready to join us in this great live about the practice of the gospel at home? And today we have two special guests, Julio Carvalho, Claudia Nunes, and let's hear from them. Hi, Julio. How are
Hi,
you?
Hello, Bernadette. Hello, Claudia.
So I
hi
see
guys.
Julio is in New Jersey.
Yes, it
It's
is.
How is the weather there?
Well, it felt like summer this past week, but now it's definitely getting to the winter mode.
Yes. What about there in Florida, Claudia?
Muggy as usual. You walk outside, you got hit by the heat.
Yeah, here in San Diego, it started to get a little bit cold, and but that's okay because we are here today and we feel the warmth of this amazing time that we are together. And Claudia, we've been friends forever. She's like my sister, right? I have a daughter, and we say it's her daughter too, right? We say your daughter is giving me a hard time today, and I call Claudia, and Claudia call my daughter. So, and Julio, if you never heard of Julio Carvalho, please look it up on YouTube. He has amazing talks. He's a great speaker and a lot of workshops. He was here recently in San Diego, and Julio too today. Before I teach, I go tra ta 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 ta. Can't even explain what it is, but it's good. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's my honor. I appreciate very much.
Thank
Yes,
you. I'm very happy to be here too.
good. Um, our topic is the practice of the gospel at home. Sembradores de Luz has been working on very hard with the speakers to bring that information about the practice of the gospel. We have a total of 9 lives, and this is the third one. The first one, we talked about the history of the gospel at home. Where did it start? Suddenly somebody just said, hey, let's do that. No, we read books, we went to how it starts with Jesus. Our second was about the benefits of the gospel at home. Why do we do this? Why is it so good for me, for my family, for the neighbors, for the world? It's really good. And if you haven't had a chance to watch, we'll make sure that down we will have the link so you watch the first one and the second one. And today is a very, very important day. We will learn how to do it. What are the steps? Sometimes I got even confused when I'm doing it. And Claudia, tell us a little bit. Can I do the gospel at home anytime I want, in different times of the day? Is there a structure? Are there steps that we should follow?
Well, let's think about it. You already talked about benefits, and you know that it's something that's good for you, just like a doctor, right? So if a doctor is good for you, can you just show up in the clinic whenever you feel like it? No, you have an appointment, right? So gospel at home is the same thing. You have an appointment, you have a date and a time. And because it's fluids, it's not a medication or even medication. You have a set date and a set time that you do it because you are asking things to spirits so they can come and join you. So set the date and
And so, from what I hear, is we have a time, a day that we choose, and then after that, what's the next thing that we should do? Is there a prayer?
so
Do you have a prayer?
Yeah, depending on the family, right? If the family's very agitated, kids, all this commotion going on, people coming in from work the last minute, we suggest it's not required that you do some kind of edifying reading first. Not even go jump into the prayer, just so you can come down and relax. Get one of these little fun books that we have, quite a few of them. A happy, there's so much sun out here today. A happy life, or any of those that have those little short readings, just to come down and relax. So when you do your prayer, you actually in the prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And prayer is simple. It's not rehearsed. It's like, hey, you, I'm here. Please help me. My guardian angels, come help me. My home, spirits that, take care of our home. If you live in a building like me, I have 36 apartments here. Imagine how many spirits manage my building, right? And then if you do participate on some kind of spiritual activity, whether there's a church, connect to them, the spirit guides that do work on that work as well. So you can get the full benefits of whatever it is that you'll be praying for that day.
Awesome. Julio, I assume you do the gospel at home, right? I hope so, but if you're not, ooh, I caught you. Now
Yep.
everybody knows you are in trouble. So, Julio, tell us, can you add a little bit more? Would you like to comment on things that Claudia said so we have more information?
I mean, one thing is for sure that everything that we say here are simply suggestions. We're not establishing any kind of rituals because in the Spiritist philosophy, we are all about logic, making sense, reason guides us. So these are suggestions and not a set of formula that we must follow in order for something to actually work. Once again, these are suggestions. And our friend Claudia, she stated very clearly that just the same way we have a doctor's appointment we have to attend to, the same thing applies to the gospel at home. And one of the reasons for this is just because it's not just because, but the entities, the highly evolved spirits, our guardian angels, our friends from the spiritual plane, these individuals are not listening to classical music and eating grapes. They are very busy. It's a
Nor
very active
sleeping.
life. They have very active lives,
Yeah.
full of responsibilities. So when we set ourselves a time and a day to do the gospel at home, this is the time they also be committing to serve us, to help us, to guide us. Obviously, they can help us at any moment we need. On the other hand, when we actually specify a time to actually concentrate on their inspirations, they will set time for that meeting as well. So this is very important that we are aware that setting up a date and a time, it's a commitment that we're making to have their assistance. If we're going to continue to use the analogy of the doctor's appointment, just imagine if we set up an appointment to see the doctor at Thursday at 6:30 p.m. and we don't show up. What would be the attitude of the doctor? I set my time aside to assist this individual, and he doesn't even have the courtesy to call me and let me know that he's not coming. I mean, for the doctor, he's going to be pretty mad because he lost money in the process because he could have assisted someone else. So our guardian angel will understand us, a couple of times, but it will get to the point in which, if this is how we decide to use our free will and not establish a commitment, they will assist us, but they always respect our free will. So if we're showing signs of irresponsibility with asking their assistance, they will respect that.
Hmm. I
Yeah, they'll
love
show
the
we gotta
analogy.
show them respect, right? They're putting
Right.
time aside to see us. So
That's why it's so important to understand the benefits of it. So you were committed and you were the one losing it. It's your choice because you gain so much and peace of prayer and all that the steps. Great, great analogy, great introduction. And by the way, we want to say hi to Claudia Virginie, Ruben de los Santos in Uruguay, Vali Garcia in Spain. Hello, friends. So glad that you are here with us. Okay, so back to the topic. We have a time, we have a day. Claudia suggests that we do like an inspirational reading just to set the mood and focus, then a prayer. And the next step is, before how long do I do this? Is it a 1 hour thing? 2 hours? How long do I do? What do you think, Julio?
Well, that all depends because one of the questions someone might ask is, what if none of my family members wants to join me on this and I'm going to do by myself? Well, if that's the question, then what is the best time and date for you, and how
Mhm.
long it will suffice for you to actually do the gospel at home by yourself? Because right now we are in a conversation amongst three individuals. If we were 10, the dynamics change completely just because there are more individuals giving their opinion about the same subject. So the same principle applies with the gospel at home. So let's cover the first topic because this is major. If no one in my family wants to join me, the way I should approach this is that if I decide to turn on my own light, I'll be doing my part in illuminating my home. If others will enjoy, that will be excellent. But if they don't, I will still carry on with my gospel at home because it's not only enlightening me, but it's definitely helping my family members in an indirect way. Think for example, individuals sometimes they watch a movie by themselves, or sometimes they watch a movie with other relatives in the same room. Now that is a
Mhm.
commitment. Sometimes they do that, after work. It's our commitment every day, 8 o'clock. I'm going to watch this particular series, either with by myself or with my family. And individuals don't realize how much influence it's being exerted upon them with whatever material they're watching. If this is uplifting material, that media material uplifts the entire family. If this is negative, pessimistic individual, that also downgrades the mental vibration of the entire family. So if one decides to not watch that TV show any longer, that person began to enlighten their own consciousness. And that in itself is an invitation to the rest of the family. So this is the way we should approach the gospel at home. If no one is interested in this, I start by myself. And if I start by myself, maybe 30 minutes, it's more than enough.
Right? Yes. And Claudia, how long do you usually take doing the gospel at home? Put her on the spot. Mm.
You see, and then life happens, right? Halfway through your gospel, the doorbell rings. And you set up to do 20, 25, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And then the doorbell rings at 10 minutes. You
What
just
do you
started to do
do?
your reading.
What do you do? It wasn't
um,
expected.
Many things can be done. Some people choose to ignore it because it's so hard to explain what you're doing. And then a 30-minute, 20-minute ordeal becomes 3 hours. I normally open the door. I will tell them I'm doing gospel at home, that I have another 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, to finish. They're more than welcome to come in, sit in the living room, or sit in the dining room with us and do it with us. And then it becomes their problem if they want to stay, if they want to go. But they already know that they got to resolve it right there and then come back in half an hour if that's the case because they didn't want to participate.
Hmm.
But the time, it's really depends, right? Because if you're doing it by yourself, you can set a very strict time limit for you to do it because you're not going to converse with yourself, right? If you're doing that, that means you are in a different realm than I am. But when you have somebody else, conversations arise and things. You just got to make sure that you don't deviate and you don't overextend.
Right.
So as long as you're still in topic, you can do it in 15, 20 minutes. You can do it in an hour. depending on how many people are there. And I know you have a couple of programs that are going to talk about doing gospel by yourself and doing gospel
Yes,
with family and with kids. So
for
that's also going to change the dynamics on those, right?
we're gonna go deep into how to do this with children, teenagers, and but it's okay to
And
mention
that
with
all changes the
family.
dynamics and the times as well.
Yeah, and Julio, we talk about the time, but then what do we read? What kind of books? What is that we can read and use for our discussion?
For someone who's listening to this who had a different creed in the past, they might have some trouble understanding what we're saying because they're looking for an exact number for the amount of minutes, because we're so used to rituals. You have to pray 7 times, and you have to, if you're Muslim, you got to pray 5 times in a specific time of the day according to where you're facing Mecca. So if we come with that mentality, just saying these numbers doesn't make any sense. So this is why we said in the beginning that what guides us, it's logic and reason. So if I'm by myself, maybe 15 minutes will suffice. But if there are three individuals, 30 minutes, it could suffice. And the reason we don't want to prolong this so much, Bernadette, is that, any habit takes perseverance in order to be established. So you want to start something small. If you establish goals that are too big, you never begin anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, even with three individuals, maybe you want to do just 10 minutes to start, and maybe people get addicted to it. They love it, and they say, 15 minutes, 10 minutes is not long enough. Let's do 20 minutes, then 30 minutes. But you want to set an amount of time in which it's feasible for everyone to actually enjoy that moment. And I think that it's just an obligation they're attending to. And before you know it, you're not even paying attention to what you're doing. In regards to the last question, which books should I be reading? Well, the book that Claudia presented before, Happy Life, it's an excellent book. Reason being is because these are very short lessons. As a matter of fact, I would also say that if you don't have the time or the commitment, or maybe let's say the entire family have different scheduling, that it's impossible for everyone to meet at a certain time, which I highly doubt that's the case, but there could be those situations. I would highly suggest that you can read that book, Happy Life, before your meals. Because if you read slow one of those lessons, it would take you 30 seconds. Now, who doesn't have 30 seconds to actually do a reading before a meal? And during the meal, while you eat, you're discussing the lesson that you just read. And these are not historical factual lessons. These are lessons for our everyday lives. Why respecting someone is important, why working hard is important, the law of action and reaction, why we are responsible for everything that happens to us. So during the meal we can actually have a very productive conversation. But if we have the discipline of actually setting up a time to study together, we can read The Happy Life as an introduction, uh, um, Happy Life to be the introduction of the gospel at home. And then after that, we can actually delve into the gospel according to Spiritism. If you don't know which book, the gospel according to Spiritism, thank you,
Yeah.
Claudia. It's a
Where is
fantastic
it?
book
There you go.
because it brings Christ's message into today's world in a very clear and logical way. In the beginning, the author of this book, Allan Kardec, he suggests that the gospel has been interpreted through 5 different lenses throughout the ages. And the four interpretations, it would not be the object of this book, but only the fifth one, which is in regard to the moral laws that were taught by Christ. And we come to find out in reading the introduction of this book that what we're reading here are not necessarily Christ laws, but natural laws. And Christ, he was a revealer of these natural laws. The same way that Isaac Newton discovered gravity because gravity was already there, Christ did not create Christian laws or natural laws. The natural laws they were already there. And Christ revealed these laws to us. So we come to understand that our suffering, it's the result of us trying to break unbreakable laws. So when we study the gospel, what we're studying are the natural laws, the laws that govern our lives, even if we don't know what they are, if we don't care about they are, but there's nothing that we can do to run away from them. So it's in our best interest that we learn what they are. And that's what the gospel at home it's there for, to help us understand these laws and give us suggestions on how we can incorporate them into our daily lives.
Great suggestions. So we have a happy life, and I love that. When you said 30 seconds, right? Just put your phone away. You can do, we can do this.
Yeah.
And then the gospel at home. And after we read, Claudia, what's the next step?
So I also wanted to suggest while we were in books, for who wants to go a little bit more
We
advanced,
can
there's
see
also,
it.
I know it's white on, here it goes.
Yes.
It's called Jesus at Home. It's a beautiful book. It also has very small passages on it. So if you want to know more about the gospel at home, this book is pretty good explaining where it comes from, why, and all that.
We talk about this in our first live.
Ah, you see? So it's got to
See?
come up again. It's nine different shows,
No,
right?
repetition. We need repetition.
So after you read a passage of something that's going to be the document that you decided to use, you can even use the Bible if that's what you like. It's got to be an edifying book, and your family should share. What do you feel about this? How did this story make you feel? How did this passage? What do you interpret? Because as you share how you heard somebody else's word, there is one thing that is inert that happens. You start to understand how that other person relates to information because you heard it too and you have your opinion, but it surprisingly enough may not be the same one as the person that's right next to you on the table. So that starts teaching you how does that person interprets life and stories. And that's why miraculously everybody says that the gospel at home makes the harmony in your house become easier to understand. Because as you guys are interpreting somebody else's point of view and somebody else's news, and you're talking about it and you're sharing it in a harmonic, you're there to distribute love. You're sitting with people that you love. You share your home with, you share your bathroom with. Please, you gotta love that person. So, you're there to share and you get to learn what goes inside of that person's mind through their point of views when they explain what they interpreted out of the lessons of the gospel. And that is the miracle pill for me that I see that the gospel at home can contribute.
And what if, actually, what if we start having a disagreement? If somebody that's there with you, like, oh, no, and a little bit escalating, what do you do?
And it's funny because obviously when you choose to do the gospel at home, right, Julio, everything is going to happen. The first four or five, everybody's going to fight, everybody's going to have a disagreement, everybody's going to have something, or even no words to say. Have you not sat with a teenager and the teenager sat down, said nothing, got up, said amen, and left? Right? No communication. But, the breakthrough is that you are making a commitment. Is a weekly commitment. I don't remember if we even said that because the constance is what makes this into a habit for your home. And all that will create this avenue of conversation where you're going to learn how to dissipate any type of disagreements, different points of view. The next time you start the gospel, you may start it a little different because you already know this kind or that kind of wording or that kind of attitude is going to trigger somebody else. And you're there to do something great. So you're going to manipulate the situation knowing now better the next person how to react to them.
What would you like to add, Julio? Anything?
Well, we have a very powerful habit of association. We associate moments with emotions we experience, at least from the psychological point of view. This is what occurs. Our memory is very strictly related with the emotions we experience when we're going through different circumstances. So we want to make the gospel at home moment as pleasant as it can be in order for the individuals who are attending that moment to associate as being an opportunity to experience fun, a pleasure. It's very agreeable. We're having a good time together. Because if we make the decision to actually wash our dirty laundry during the gospel at home, we're going to inevitably associate that moment with misery, with being called upon things I have done 15 years ago and so forth. And this is very detrimental to the well-being of those who are participating. So we want to avoid as much as we can to not wash dirty laundry, not you know to call this is what you did that day. Look, at the gospel is so right and you're so wrong. The gospel is saying that you should forgive, and look, you still haven't forgiven me for for wasting this money or for calling you names the other night. That's not how this conversation should unfold. If you're having a fight afterwards and then you want to call the person, have you learned anything from the gospel at home? That's a different story.
He's telling me you definitely need to do more gospel at home. Maybe you should do 3 times a week.
But if you set up that moment to be Thursday at 7:30, and the mood you want to create is, oh my God, it's 7:30, yeah, we're gonna do the gospel at home, instead of, oh my God, I can't believe it's Thursday again and I have to go through that experience. So make it pleasant as possible. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is supposed to be agreeable, very pleasant. If you have children, for example, and you're reading passages from the gospel, especially if you read directly from the gospel according to Spiritism, it might not relate to their world. So one of our suggestion is, if you're reading something, there are kids or teenagers present, you mold the message to their reality. You literally could be reading something, but in your mind, you're already translating into their daily routine. If something happens at school, because the language that these books have been written, it's the spirits are very articulate, to say the least. And the more words that you know, this is not to express how intelligent you are, but rather to augment your ability to express yourself. And this is what they're doing. They use some elaborate words that it might not be your daily words. So you want to mold the message to whoever is present in order to make it relatable. Otherwise, you're not going to like it. It's not that they dread the meeting. It's simply that it doesn't make any sense to them, because here we are talking about something that happened 2,000 years ago that it's completely unrelatable to their world. So you want to mold that message to them and make it pleasant, always fun, pleasant.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
I remember
Um,
one time I was teaching,
mhm.
and the parent said that she used to do all kinds of things because she had little children, 3, 4, 5, that kind of age, and they had Indians and cowboys games related to the stories of the passages of the gospel, and they had dolls play parts of whatever the stories were, and they just had so much fun. So there is so many different avenues you can do this fun for all kinds of ages, including the elderly. Because when you have a senior is as delicate as you have a child, right? A person with 70, 80, 90 years old that's going to sit down and do the gospel with you. Also, their understanding and agility to get some of the messages doesn't go according to what you expect sometimes.
Mhm. Yep. That's good. Um. All right. Let's bring back the
Mhm.
steps. So specific time and day. an inspirational message or reading something short. Then we talk about the books. We can do the gospel according to spiritism, happy life, gospel at home, the Bible, usually the New Testament because it's about Jesus. And then we talk, we have a discussion, make sure that we are not doing our dirty laundry during the gospel at home, and
Nice boy,
something
nice.
very peaceful. And I heard that some people have a magnetized water. Should we do that? Is that okay?
It's
Um,
not required, just like anything else is not required, right?
mhm.
Um,
But what is a magnetized
however,
water?
yeah, however, people connect the magnetizing of the water as a moment to pray for the family, as a moment for asking for things, and they would ask it in the form of fluids to be put in that water. That water could be served individually per person that is there on an open glass, on a closed container, doesn't matter. Or some families also choose to do just a big container of water that's going to serve the whole family. There's not really restrictions if that water is cold or hot. I've been in homes because I travel a lot, and people serve it cold, people serve it room temperature. There's all kinds of different ways. People put little things on top of it because depending on where you are, there's mosquitoes and things on the atmosphere. I've been in so many different places doing gospel at people's homes when I was staying with them, that it's been incredible experiences. But it's this moment where when you're doing the prayer to fluidify the water, you put your heart out to ask for the things that your family needs and that you need in case uh, you are the one that needs it. Uh, and you extend your love, like it's an expansion of this love that you have inside of you, that somehow your brain understands that you're materializing it into water. So it's like a fluid passe, we would say sometimes. It's not necessary, but it's like this beautiful hug that adds to the whole experience. You know, this is how I see it with my little emotional opinion, right? I'm sure Julio has a lot of technical things behind it, but I'm the emotional chick here, so.
Yeah, I call I think magnetize is too complicated of a word. When I used to do, doing this with my daughter, she calls the blast water. Go get the water. We need
Yeah.
to blast the water. Okay, blast water it is. And not all the time we remember it, but what do you have to say, Julio, if you'd like to add something?
No, this is why it's so interesting to do these sort of things in groups because you get different aspects and they are equally important for the understanding of the subject. Otherwise, if you only hear the emotional part or the technical part, they are interesting, but we're still missing different aspects of the same subject. So I agree with Claudia. But if you never heard of this term before, magnetized water, so this is something that the Spiritist philosophy suggests that we do after our meetings, and also can be included in the gospel at home. Just like Claudia said, it's not a requirement, but it can be done at home. Now, what is a magnetized water? Now, for
Hmm.
those of you who never heard about this subject before, just consider for a moment that our bodies are made up of 68% of water. And if you are a chemist, you know that water binds to many different elements to make new elements. It's so water has this highly moldable property that makes it feasible for the highly evolved spirits to change its content, to change its property in order to bring medicinal effectiveness to our body. So, if individuals are sick, for example, your guardian angel can actually lay his or her hands on top of a regular water that you have at home, and that water will receive the fluids of this spirit, which will insert medicinal properties into this water. And that's what we call the magnetized water
Got
because
it.
it has received through magnetic procedure these medicinal properties, so in order to bring healing to your body. So if you want to do this, once again, none of this are rituals. You know, you must have the water, you must drink the water afterwards. But if you think it will benefit you, just put a glass of jar, and then at the end, when you do the closing prayer, you ask them to put on that water whatever you think you need in order to restore your health. And if you have the merit, it will be done.
Interesting. I just did this last night. I have this cough that doesn't go away, and I've been getting sick this, gosh, for 3 weeks now, teaching 4 year olds a lot of germs. So I can't help. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm taking all the medicines and I don't get better. So last night I just got a glass of water and I prayed. I even went online and got some prayers from Bezerra de Menezes and others. And I drank the water and I'm feeling a little bit better. My voice right now was like, ugh. So, of course, we have to realize that when we are doing the gospel at home, we are not alone. Julio is always saying about your guardian angel, your spiritual friend. They are there with you, praying for you, helping you. So it's a good idea. It's a suggestion. If you want to do this and have the water, why not? What if I forget? It's okay. It's okay. You're going to be okay. So after we have a discussion and we may or may not have the magnetized water, how do we close? How do we close our meeting? You want to start? I will. How do you close the meeting, Claudia?
Oh, me.
Yeah, I meant
Uh,
it should be because we know we are talking and
yeah, no,
oh,
that's okay.
hey,
No, that's fine.
what do we do next?
Um, I'm a very inclusive person. Like I mentioned, that I live in a home that has 36 apartments. I think of my building as my home, and all these
Nice.
people just live in different rooms of my house. So I don't even pray just for my apartment because we're all connected here. So I pray for this whole building. And I live in a community that has 2,500 apartments. So it's 66 buildings just in my complex. So when you think about community and connections and all that, that's how I normally close my gospel at home. We thank people for being here, physical people, whoever they were there with you. We thank for our spirit guides that are always instructing us and saying the best words and the better words and keeping this as a harmonic, loving atmosphere. And then I just go a little bit beyond and I thank, the governors of this building that keep this into on a harmonic place. And funny enough, it's been a year I've been the captain of this building, and in the beginning it was a lot of hatred words directed to me because unfortunately old people sometimes don't know the most sophisticated or proper way to communicate, and when they're angry at something, all their words just come out as anger, and when you're the one hearing it, it feels like it's all towards you, right? And since I started doing the gospel at home that I included the whole building, this has changed. Now I have people that used to come to me with rah, 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 rah. Like, do you think you can check on the fan that they were going to change in the elevator instead of that elevator's so hot, blah, blah, blah. So it's funny how it changed the harmony to all your surroundings, not just your immediate surroundings. So I
Mhm.
pray for everybody on my building because I have to deal with them. I pray for bosses. I pray for coworkers. I pray for people that are related in my life that may not be there at that moment. I ask things for my sister and even my parents that have passed away. I ask them, to be receiving all the attention that they need because they fairly recently passed. I don't call them. I don't, the phone calls come from there, right? So, but I do wish them well because you can always send people beautiful things, just like through thoughts, through prayer as well. And that's normally how I close it. And then I ask the Spirit's permission to close my gospel, and that's what we do.
Thank you, Claudia. What about you, Juju? What would you suggest?
Well, since this is the podcast you guys reserved to talk about the structure of the gospel home, uh, I'll tell you the way we do it here.
Okay.
Once again, it's not anything is not set in stone. This is just a suggestion, and I mold this because I have a 10-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. So when we sit to have the gospel at home, I have to mold the message to the youngest one in the room because the other three individuals, I, my wife, and my daughter, they can actually change the information in their head to apply to their reality. So we begin the gospel at home with a prayer, and that prayer is as simple as it can be. Uh, Dear God, thank you so much for being here with us, and we ask you to help us understand the message from our guardian angels who are here to enlighten us. So be it. And that's it. Something very simple. And then I open the book Happy Life randomly. And then my daughter reads it. She always reads. I give the book to my son so he can have the pleasure of actually choosing the lesson for all of us.
Nice.
So he picks up the lesson and he gives it to my daughter, and my daughter reads the lesson, and then I ask my daughter to read the lesson, and then she interprets the lesson. And surprisingly, Jonas has begun to interpret the lesson, and we are very surprised how much he picks up, because sometimes he has his little car with him, he has something on his hand that you think he's not paying attention. But once again, remember, my goal here is to get him to enjoy the meeting. If I set all this discipline, sit, don't do anything, just listen, he's going to associate that with a very boring time. But and we do this for breakfast, we do this for lunch. So whenever we have breakfast together, he's the one who runs and he says, "Stop, everybody, stop!" And he goes and get the Happy Life book and gives it to my daughter. So
Oh,
my daughter reads,
wow.
interpret, and my son has begun interpreting it, and we are amazed how much he has heard, even though we think he's not listening to it, just because he's
Yeah.
all over the place when he does it. And then I will read the gospel, or my wife will read the gospel. But when we're reading it, we're not reading word for word. We are molding the message to him. Something that happened at school. This little boy was doing this, and the teacher said that. It's from the gospel, but we are molding to his reality in order for him to understand. And at the end, we close with a prayer, and that prayer always includes gratitude. Thank you for this, thank you for that. We appreciate our family. We appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate the Spiritist philosophy, who has given us so much knowledge that we know how to live our lives in a productive way. And please always give us good thoughts, good words, and especially good actions into our habits. Always molding the message to the little one. And obviously, the other three individuals are picking up the message as well. So that's the basically structure within 30 minutes time frame. Obviously, the breakfast one, it doesn't take even 3 minutes to do it. But the message is being uh, uh, linked into their little minds on a daily basis.
Love it. I love it. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your experience and your family dynamics. And probably going to use your example when you do the gospel at home just for children. It's going to be one of our lives. So we got all the schedule and we know the steps. And we have two questions for you guys. For Claudia, this is one question. What
What
if
if
you
you
were
think?
sick and you
Yeah.
can do the gospel on that day? Can I do it another day? On another day?
Um, you can. But isn't the gospel supposed to make us feel better? So
Yes.
unless we are in a non-speaking, non-breathing condition, like you took some medication and you have to be asleep at that time, I think it should go on anyways. But if you're traveling, let's put it into a more complex place, right? I travel a lot. I know Julio travels too. And sometimes that may fall onto our gospel time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do the gospel anyways, no matter where I am. My mind is going to connect myself to the central place where the gospel happens. And then we'll just do it. Remember, gospel is all about thinking, it's about your synergy with your surroundings. So, remember when we were teaching that lesson to the children in one of the symposiums? Can you pray in the bathroom? Yes. Can you pray when you're this and when you're that, when you're afraid in school? Yes. So, prayer is about here, not here. So you can do it anywhere you are. Even if you are in your bed, in the hospital, convalescing from some kind of procedure, you could do it anyways.
So from what I hear is whenever you can, you should do, unless you are in a position that you can't physically really sick. But
Maybe
then the
you're
question,
taking some medicine or something, right?
yeah, I've been there when I get COVID. I had COVID. I could not move. I was in bed. But then I miss my day and my time. Can I do another day? What do you think, Julio?
Yes, we can definitely do another day. Reason being, it's because the gospel at home are many things, including our our need to connect with God through a prayer. What is a prayer? One can think of a prayer as being a phone call to this entity that is in charge of our lives. And the reason I say so, it's because many people believe that we pray because that is a God need. A prayer has three purposes: to praise, to ask, and to say thanks. Now, none of these are needs of God. We pray because we need the connection of God. God does not change its mood because we have lacked or done the prayer that day, or we have done our gospel at home or not. This is not a God's need. It's our need to keep ourselves connected with the source of love and life and energy. And we have many disturbances in today's world. We have a lot of excess of access to many entertainment that does not nourish our souls. And when we put that into perspective, we see that people are hungry for love. They're hungry to re-energize themselves. They're hungry for healthier lives, and yet they don't know how to get that. And the gospel at home offers that opportunity in order for us to strengthen ourselves in within our family, together with our family, so we can fulfill our mission here on this planet. What is our mission? To become a better version of ourselves. So the gospel at home help us to be aware of what is the mission that we have, to be a better version of ourselves. So if I'm sick that day, nothing prevents me from lying down in bed and actually elevating my thoughts and do the gospel at home in my head. So, highly evolved spirits, you guys are seeing that I am physically ill today. Nonetheless, my intent is to connect with you on our usual time. And I kindly ask you, if I have a merit, please bring me healing. However, if I need this bed time in order to reflect upon the things I have done, give me the wisdom to do so, because I definitely want to learn from these moments. They are apparently negative, but will definitely forge my character for me to be a better version of myself.
Wow, I hear there the word commitment. You are
And if you know
committed
you're not going
of
to
doing
be
it.
there, you should, aren't you going to call the doctor and reschedule? Aren't you going to call your nail technician and reschedule if you can't make your appointment? You know, you know something is happening for work at 8 o'clock on Sunday when I do my gospel and I have to be there. What do I do? Well, earlier that day, earlier that week, I already start prepping in my head. Earlier that day, before I leave the house, I set aside 15 minutes and I do my prayer then. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do my commitment. But since Wednesday, since Tuesday, I already knew this was going to happen. And I started praying back then to reschedule my appointment with my guardian angels for
Nah,
that Sunday at 8 o'clock when I'm not going to be able to be there.
thank you. Now I have one more question here. Julio, since we were talking about the steps, right? Every time I look at you, I just think of dirty laundry because you said that is stuck in my head. Go, no, no. Every time my
Nah,
husband, no,
not
we are not going to
today.
talk about that today or later. So the question is, should we give a quick reminder what the gospel at home is and the steps before you start the meeting with your family or when you were starting doing it?
I think it's a good reminder from time to time. Remember, the point is never to create rituals. We are tired of rituals because people have created strong commitments to follow rituals, yet they have not bettered themselves. And the purpose of having any religion, the definition of religion is the action of reconnection, connect the creature with the creator. And if our religion, if our habits, if our rituals are not making us a better version of ourselves, it's useless.
Yes.
So once again, and I'm very skeptic of creating new rituals, substituting old ones for new ones. So having that said, one can definitely remind from time to time, everybody, let's just keep our minds fresh that the purpose of the gospel at home is for us to better ourselves. We are not here to accuse anyone of what we have done this week that was not according to the gospel. uh, that should be the point, because that strong association that the gospel is time for us to now point our fingers and blame people for what they have done will kill the gospel at home very quickly.
Oh, no, we don't want it. As a teacher, um, when we remember, and I try to do the best I can before I teach anything or when I'm about to teach, I always say the purpose of the lesson. It doesn't matter the age. It says right now, this morning, we are learning these letters and the sounds so we become better readers and writers. So I
This is
always have to say the purpose and why, even if it's just a statement. And now talking to you and hearing this, go, hey, this is something that we can just say quickly why we are
yes.
here.
And you definitely will relate to this as well, since you mentioned that this is what you do as a teacher in the beginning of your lessons. Now, how many of you have hated a subject in school just because you did not like the teacher? So I hear people saying, I hate physics. Well, that's because they didn't like the teacher. Oh, I don't like biology at all. But it was not biology itself, it was the teacher who
Yeah.
did not know how to teach, because to teach is an art. And unfortunately, many professionals out there, they were able to have a diploma, but they were not able to develop the art of conveying information in a very interesting way that the teacher should do. So you associate the subject with the teacher, then you don't like the subject. So the same principle will apply here. If we associate the gospel at home with something that we don't like, we're going to throw the baby with the baby water out. We're going to throw the gospel altogether with God, Christ, and everything else. Isn't this the reason for the growth of atheism nowadays? The bad association people have made with religion and nothing that has to do with religion. So they made that association, and unfortunately, they throw the baby with the baby water, meaning that they associate Christ and God with bad religious people. So to be in a position of authority, it's a big responsibility
It
because
is.
we mold people's opinion about what they see. So in our own relatively sphere of influence, which is the gospel at home, we want to be very careful to make sure that it's agreeable moment so they associate that specific date and time with something pleasant.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And one last one before we close this. And should we prepare ourselves an environment before we start the gospel at home? I'll let you two talk a little bit about it. And Claudia and then Julio, what do you think?
The environment is like, do you sweep your house every day? Right? In my case, I don't. I have an electric thing that comes around and sweeps every day for me. But it's part of your maintenance, right? It's something. Do you brush your teeth every day?
At least
You don't
should
do that.
sleep
You're not
once a
maintaining.
week at least.
Yeah, at least once a day, right? But your environment, you have to respect and prepare it every day. When you lose your hand because you got mad at something, you got to stop. You got to breathe. It may not be 5 minutes as soon as you lost it, maybe an hour, maybe a day, but you have to stop, breathe, recognize what you've done within your environment, and try to fix it right there and then. That's how you prepare your environment, is try to keep it as light as you can. Instead of, if you are at the point, at the subliminal point, probably that's Julio's house, not mine, but that you see that you're going to overreact and you can stop yourself, that's even better. But most of us human beings can't. We're too emotional for that. And we'll blow up to realize later we blew up. We don't even realize while we're doing it sometimes. And but once you do that, you realize that things went out of hand or you went overboard, regroup. If you need to ask for forgiveness to yourself, if you need to ask forgiveness for the person you blew up with, do it. That keeps your environment ready for gospel at any time.
So I can just watch a horror movie before doing the gospel?
I cannot because I cannot sleep. I have
Mm,
friends that watch horror movies and they love it. They think it's hilarious. I don't see humor in them at all, but I
mm,
guess it really depends your relationship with what you're watching and why are you watching it. Like I don't like gore, but I
mm,
love to see gore makeup being done. It's such
mm.
an artistic form. But I don't look at the gore, I look at the art. So it all depends your relationship with it. But should you do something that do you harm, like a horror movie would do to me, before doing gospel, if that's what you're asking me? No. Because don't you do the edifying reading to try to elevate
Yeah.
yourself and neutralize it, right? Judy, what do you think?
I fully agree with you, Claudia. The question is, should we prepare ourselves in the environment before we start the gospel at home? It's not before we start the gospel at home. Our home is a place where we should replenish our soul. So we should check the environment. And unfortunately, most people are not aware the amount of social engineers out there trying to mold our perception of life into their reality. And this is done through the media, this is done through music, this is done through movies. And people, unfortunately, they don't realize how much toxic they allow into their homes through this kind of media. So I'm not talking about prohibiting things. I'm talking about understanding where this is coming from and how much harm is doing to you without you even realizing it. Because what you watch, what you see, the conversation that you have will shape the person that you become. So if I constantly poison my environment with the content that I'm watching on TV, I am investing in my own misery by allowing this toxicity into my home. And I do this through my will of watching that particular show or that particular series. I'm not saying let's shut down the TV forever. It's I'm not going to the other extreme. I'm saying that we should be very careful in selecting the content that will shape the harmony or the disharmony of our home. We can do this by simply ask ourselves the question, what kind of material this is bringing in? Is this helping me become a better version of myself? Is this bringing some sort of enlightenment? What kind of entertainment is this? Is this to bring me down? You know, Uh, uh, Before, I used to go to psychiatric hospitals to see some of our patients, and one day I went there. This I still remember this day vividly because I couldn't believe my eyes what I'm seeing. I went there, and it was during Halloween. So I'm going to the psychiatric ward to see children, teenagers who recently had attempted to commit suicide. And here I am in an environment decorated by Halloween stuff. Not the cutie stuff. All these people hanging, shot, knife going through the head.
Oh my
So,
God.
yes. So you are going through depression. This is what you have done, and then you go to the hospital, and this is what they have in
And
the
they're
psychiatric
just here
ward.
to receive
You know,
you.
where is the
I
common
can't
sense?
believe it.
Where is the common sense? And we, the spirit, and in the spiritist philosophy, we have an abundance of material that tells us very clearly where these directors get these ideas from. You mentioned about the horror movies. They're not going to elevated places in the spiritual plane to be inspired to make these movies. They're going to what we call the lower zones. This is a place in the spiritual plane that you have these individuals who are suffering. They're going through the negative consequences of what they have done here, and they literally create with their mind a place of of purgatory, in order for them to inflict pain on themselves because of they're consumed by their own guilt. So we call
Yep.
these places lower zones, and it's a place of a lot of suffering. In Christian, in Christ's words, gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
This is what they're going there. So these directors, when they fall asleep, the body's falling asleep, not the individual in the body. So they go to their lower zones, and they live these experiences, and then when they go back to their body, they awake, on the following day. They have an inspiration to come up with a new idea for the next movie. So if I am bringing that stuff into my home through the content of my TV, I'm linking my mind with those same disturbed individuals from the lower zones. This is why it's a very serious topic. How we shape the environment of our home, by select the media that gets into our home. So it's not only for the gospel home; it's general. We want to make sure that we filter very carefully the content that we're bringing to our home.
So some of the comments are here on Facebook is that's laughing, that's because we were shocked. How could
Yeah.
we do this? You know, I can't
Yeah,
believe
we're
what the
so
chat.
oblivious of what the vibrations we get ourselves into sometimes, you know. Even the gossiping on the hallways here, like I said, I live with a lot of people. And I hear the gossiping on the hallways. I can go out there and join it, or I can do what I do, which is normally stay away from it. And it's your choice, right? What you watch, what channel do you watch? The one that's gonna give you the news that the world is ending, or the same channel that's gonna talk about the same situation in a much more logistics or positive way. It's all about how you bring the information to yourself, right?
Well, dear friends, I love our chat today, and it's coming to an end. But make sure you watch the live number one, number two, this one. Watch it again. Write down steps. It's good. It's good. And the gospel of hope is just going to bring life, light, and harmony into life and your family. And today we are so, so grateful for Julio Carvalho and Claudia Nunes for being with us here today, enlightening this world with their knowledge and experience, reminding that these are suggestions. And start thinking about it. If you haven't started yet, here's an invitation. Jesus calling. All right, we want to say thank you for being here and see you in our next live. Bye. Bye,
Bye
Julio.
bye, everyone.
Bye, Claudia.
Bye.